Okay, so the Abzug, hitting your opponent and getting out unscathed. Is this a skill set we all really actually have? And if not, can we actually train it? Let's find out. Jeff Tsai, Forte Swordplay. So in coming weeks, we'll be actually prepping and playing with a rule set that we're developing that really encourages much more continuous fencing. Not that there aren't stoppages to the fencing, but in particular, when we land a blow, we are not just stopping the action, right? So if we're going to land a blow, we still are going to be responsible for making sure that we are safe all the way getting out. So we'll refer to this as sort of counter blows or continuous fencing. So more on that development in future weeks. But one of the terms that's probably going to come up quite a bit as part of that exploration is the term Abzug. So A-B-Z-U-G. It's a German term. It is derived from the verb abziehen, to pull off, with the ziehen part related to drawing, as in like drawing a sword, right? And the core meaning of that pulling off or drawing off has led to various modern senses of the word Abzug, including deduction, something that's being pulled off, a copy or a print, something that's being pulled off of a master, a flue, as in like a chimney flue where smoke is drawn off, and ultimately a departure or withdrawal, a pulling away, specifically in sort of a military kind of context. So that's a bit of sort of etymological context. The other bit of context that's really important to think about is some writing from Joachim Meyer, one of our favorite sources, who, even though he's at the later end of the tradition, really kind of brings all of this stuff together, right? So he has a good framework, pedagogical framework on how to think about how to put all of these different fencing elements together. So a few weeks ago, we actually did a video on footwork because that particular chapter was short enough that we could actually read through it. And so today I want to do something similar with the chapter preceding the footwork, his chapter number 6, concerning the withdrawal or Abzug. So I'm going to kind of read through this and then we're actually going to go through a little bit of the physical element of it. And at the end of this, the goal is, okay, what is the kind of skill set he's talking about? Is this something that is new or something that a lot of us don't even typically think about? And if so, like, how do we train it? How do we actually add it to our repertoire of technique? So to begin, so here's his chapter 6, and he starts this with, while it's a little long-winded, I think is like on brand, very on brand for the German tradition. So he begins with, although, as they say, to have begun well may in all things practically half acquit you, yet equally, on the other hand, a poor finish may ruin and bring to nothing everything that was well and properly done up to that point, as may daily be seen. So in other words, don't ruin a good thing. Like, there are plenty of people that go out and actually can execute and can hit, but if they can't actually close the deal and actually get out, what's the point? It's practically just a double hit. It's just it's suicidal potentially, right? So don't ruin it. How do we make sure we don't ruin it? Now, so that it does not befall you in combat, that after you have laid on well and soundly pressed after, you end up getting shamed at the last. No shame. We don't like shame, right? So I will here properly explain to you how the withdrawal, the Abzug, shall take place. So he's got specific advice. And again, this next part, very on brand for the Germans. So now it is particularly to be noted that after every device has been executed, you must always withdraw in one of these 3 ways. Either first, before your opponent, or last, after him, or else at the same time as him. So for those of us who are familiar with the German tradition, hopefully that kind of echoes these concepts of vor, knock, and indes, right? This idea of like before, after, and instantly or at the same time. And again, I say it's really on brand for the Germans because a lot of the time they're going to give us these pedagogical frameworks which cover all the bases, right? They may not give us all the gory detail about every specific option, like permutation of those different things, but these big categories are always kind of generally presented to us, so it covers all of the possibilities in the universe, right? So it's a complete framework. And so the next thing that we're going to do now is actually kind of talk through those three different scenarios. I'll read them, and do not be discouraged as when I read it if these sound confusing, because this is one of those things that even though I've looked at this stuff for like 20 years, this is an area where I think there's still plenty of active research. And on that note, actually, like, share, subscribe. This is a great video actually for people to actually get into the comments and really give some ideas on what you think is going on here, because I am still in a very sort of student mentality about, okay, I'm still developing what I think are even sort of like the main default versions of interpretation for each one of these scenarios. So let's start with this first scenario. If you want to withdraw before him, then see that you first crowd him and drive him up with your techniques to such a degree that he must go up to protect himself. Then, while he tries to see what you plan to do next, strike through at once and with the withdrawal cut, and go away before he realizes it. So this is one of the scenarios which I feel is, even though we may not have like the perfect understanding, is probably one of the ones that is easier to sort of envision a standard possibility. So if I bring Blake in here, and today actually for our tournament that we're going to be, the rule set that we're playing with, we're going to be testing with both Dusaks and longswords. So today we're going to break out some Dusaks for this kind of demonstration. Okay, so if we go back to the vor version where I'm trying to actually withdraw before my opponent, this is a classic case of a place where in the past we've actually done the winding cut, the Withdrawal, that Meyer talks about as not like the only withdrawal cut, but a really good example of a withdrawal cut. So if we set up just a very standard attack parry kind of situation, so he's attacking and then parrying, right? So if I want to go for him, right? So if I want to do something where I sort of attack, and get to the point where he's really having to parry, boom, right? So Meyer talks about actually driving the opponent to a point where they're going up, right? And that to me is when you look at a lot of the other cases where he talks about the hands going up, it often ends up being this kind of like an upper hanger kind of pairing kind of situation where I'm either underneath or I could be going up and actually doing crump from on top. But the point is, like, I'm in a position where the hands are going high and the energy of the sword is actually generally going downward. And so if I just set up a situation where he's doing those pairing Moulinets, right? So here and then here, just Moulinet on both sides. There, these guys. If I can get him to this kind of position, so his energy is going up every single time. So from here, if I can do that while he's going up, that's great timing, so that I can withdraw while he is not in a position energy-wise to really do anything to me. So this is why it's not just a matter of speed, it's also a matter of like really timing it so that his energy is directed completely away from me so that I can go first and I can get out. So that is one possible interpretation of what he's talking about. Okay, great. So let's read this next bit. Now, if you want to withdraw after him, then note that this may take place in two ways. First, when you wait for your opponent's withdrawal and then he cuts away from you, you chase him skillfully over his blade with your withdrawal. Second, when you act as if you intend to withdraw before him, but hold back your cut artfully and without him realizing, so that when he rushes after you, you let him miss with his cut and fall so that you can cut after him over his weapon to the opening. So this particular section, I am not going to offer a particular interpretation. It's definitely one of those things that we're still working on. And I think you can kind of glean from this elements of like, there's definitely tempo, things that are going on. I want to make sure that, you know, the opponent has sort of committed, so that, you know, sort of after that tempo, I can immediately launch my attack, but also do it in a way where I'm getting out, okay? So yeah, pretty interesting that he's actually got sort of like two different versions of that. And yeah, get in the comments if you have thoughts about how you could give a specific example of what you think those things are. So the last bit, getting out at the same time. Now, if you want to withdraw at the same time as him, then conduct yourself such that by stepping out, you always come over his blade with your cut. And when he cuts away from your right side, you cut on his left side. But if he cuts on his left side, you step out to his right and cut in at the same time as him. So for this one, again, I'm not sure that I'm totally sold on this particular interpretation, but if we kind of go back to the tried and true winding cut that we've been talking about, so we're doing this kind of thing, right? And so the footwork can be as simple as this with Dusak, could be a little more complicated like this, with that sort of box step that we've been talking about. Boom, right? So that's the moment where, like, as I actually ideally step in, this is where I'm good and I can try to get this. And ideally for him, Blake is going to try to do almost the same thing, except he just tries to get his angle so that he's kind of on top of me. So let's see if we can actually kind of get this to happen. Right, so we both basically did the withdrawal cut at the same time, but he simply managed, if you look at the geometry here, we're both on the outside, but by getting on top of this, he's able to sort of control at the same time that exit and suppress me. So I've said this in other videos, but again, this idea of like, a lot of us, just give me an inside bind, a lot of us tend to do fencing where we're really on the inside here, like all the time. And that's totally valid, but if there are techniques where there are interesting things to do where we're on the outside, better be exploring them, better be actually doing drills to do that. And actually you can do drills that allow you to explore the inside and outside, but if you're never thinking about outside binds, you could be really missing out. So the way to kind of set this one up, so standard attack, yeah, so cut Moulinet. Okay, so when I come here, stop right here, from here, I can come all the way around, but why bother if this is open, right? I can stay on the outside here and do this, but when I do that, he can just as well do the same thing on that side, okay? So more and more, I think there's more evidence that like we really need to be thinking about not always both being on the inside, but actually exploring things on the outside. So one last sentence from Meyer. Thanks, Blake. So, final sentence. However, since all devices involve this, the Abzug, you will well be able to learn it sufficiently in its place when where I discuss the devices. So, more on this later in future sections. So, hopefully that was a good introduction to the Abzug and to some of the variations of it based on timing. The big thing that I want to make sure people kind of take away from this is, if you go back to the very beginning when we kind of showed a little sequence at the beginning where I'm attacking and I hit and then I parry immediately, that is what I think most people think about when they're like, okay, I want to hit and I want to cover and sort of get away successfully. But notice that like all that energy is very forward energy. I'm actually attacking and then parrying really still kind of forward. If there's a getting away part, it's kind of do this, stay safe, and then get out, right? And what I think is being not considered, and I want to really emphasize with the Abzug and the withdrawal cut in general, is a withdrawal where you're actually hitting on the way out, right? Our energy is not coming forward with the attack and hitting, but it's in fact setting it up so that actually by the time I'm hitting, I'm actually getting out at the same time. So I know for myself, that is not one of those things that I really kind of thought about until much later in my sort of experience. And so just highlighting it now. So if this is one of those things that interests you, don't be like me and wait until you've kind of spent a lot of years kind of reading this stuff and only discovering it years later. Think about, hey, when you're actually trying to get out, when you're trying to set up an attack on your opponent, is there a way to set it up so that you hit them even while you're getting out? And then all of a sudden things like afterblows and parries and just being safe, way easier to actually get out clean. And getting out clean will be one of those things that, again, we will be coming back to when we talk about this counter blows and continuous fencing rule set that might be coming up in a few weeks. So until then, until next video, see you then.